Hi, Fred. Welcome.
Everything going okay as far as the setup this evening? Bridget, Rana, can you hear me? Is everything going all right?
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All good.
Yep.
Hi, Fred.
Here I am.
There you are.
Yep. Have to keep an eye on the little mute symbol all the time. They slip by you.
So many buttons to watch.
Yeah, yeah, really. That was a nice opening ceremony this afternoon or this morning.
They did a great job.
Yep, it's good. Nice to see everybody without the masks on.
Yeah, really.
Serious about that.
The light in our ceiling in the laundry room died. So eventually I will start looking a little bit like I'm in the witness protection program. Electricity won't get here for a couple of weeks, so.
Karen, you're a friend of, or you know Amy Nykamp. She's my wife's sister, Elena.
I know. Yeah, Amy and I see her every Sunday.
Yeah,
Wonderful person.
yeah.
She mentioned
great
it.
voice, great voice, both of them, both
Oh,
John
yeah.
and Amy.
Gorgeous.
Wonderful. Is Anne here? Let's see. Anne, are you here?
Anne's here.
Okay,
Done.
wonderful. It is 6 o'clock. And so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And before I call the roll, I want to thank Joel Newberg for serving on the commission. And I would love to welcome a new commissioner, Mr. Engbarth. Commissioner Engbarth, thanks very much for joining us. And perhaps after we take the roll, you could, even though I've given a little bio to the library commissioners, perhaps you could talk about why you wanted to join the commission.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh.
So without any further ado, I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Cahill,
Here.
Commissioner Elkins,
Here.
Commissioner Engbarth.
Here,
Commissioner Foxton is not going to be with us tonight. Commissioner Heavenridge,
Here.
Commissioner Hauser,
Here.
and Commissioner McKenzie is not going to be with us tonight. Commissioner Mulford, I know you have a terrible problem with your voice, but make a noise.
She's holding up a sign to let you know. that she's
Okay,
here.
good. Thank you. And Commissioner Schneider.
Here.
There we go. We're
And
all
so am
here.
I. I'm here too.
I'm sorry, who said that?
Commissioner Parker.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, Commissioner Parker. How did I skip over you? Okay, I'm so sorry. That is even more here. Okay. Commissioner Engbarth, now that you're now that we're officially convened, would you like to talk to the commission a little bit and tell them why you've taken on the role of filling in for the last year of Commissioner of Joel's term?
Sure, I'd be happy to. One part of it, on a personal level, Helena Whistler, my wife, has been urging me to do this both before she was on the commission and during the time that she was on the commission and once the opening was announced. And so she finally prevailed. Part of the timing on it is I'm winding my practice down so I have time to devote to something like the commission. My interest in the commission, as many of you, I would imagine, has been books and libraries. I was a charter member down at UC Irvine when they opened that campus and that library up, and helped there some. And then when I was moved up here in '71, I used the library at Sonoma State and the other libraries in the area just for reading and also for keeping up with things in the news. So in Sebastopol, I've been in that area of the county, the West County, since about '74, and have used their library and also the law library when I was going to Empire. I almost lived there at night. Background-wise, I have background in both the public sector, working at UC Irvine and also working at Sonoma State University in a variety of roles. As Commissioner Doyle said in my bio, the last position I had there was as the assistant to the president, and I stayed there with him, which was during when Diamandopoulos was president there, until they finally identified Ruben Arbanena to replace him. Once I left Sonoma State, I opened a private law practice in the Empire Building, focusing on employment law, representing employees and employers both, and also doing licensing work, professional licensing work, where I would defend people who hold a professional license in the state, like teachers or doctors or lawyers and dentists and the like, when they ran into a foul with the licensing board, that worked to get their licenses reinstated or to protect them from getting them revoked. And I've been doing that since 1984, and have been, when the Empire Building was getting converted to a hotel, I moved home and been practicing out of my house since then. And that brings me here today. So,
Well, welcome.
to be here with y'all.
Thanks very much. All right, and just so that you know, and as a reminder to some of the other folks who are on the call, I can see the names, but the list rolls off my list, and I don't have pictures. So Jen, who is our fabulous administrative assistant, will warn me when someone has their hand up. So you can raise your electronic hand or you can raise your hand, and we will try to get everybody as quickly as possible. Thanks very much. Okay. Pursuant to California Code Section 54953, all votes during the teleconference are going to be taken by roll call, so everybody hears that. Are there any public appearances? Jen, do we know of any public appearances?
I have not been made aware of any public appearances, and I have not received any email communications.
Okay. Then our first action item is a resolution. We're delighted to honor the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, the County of Sonoma, the advocates for the Sonoma County Archives, and the Sonoma County Historical Records Commission. As most of you know, we have at least taken the step of getting the records out of Los Guilacos, and we're delighted about that. But it took a lot of work and it took a lot of teamwork, and so we thought that we would make sure that we thank those who are involved. Commissioner Schneider, would you like to read this? And you have had your hands on the records issue ever since you joined the commission, I believe.
That is correct, and I would be, and Commissioner Schneider would be delighted to read the resolution.
Excellent.
And thanks to those who crafted it so beautifully. Whereas an extraordinary collaboration between the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, the County of Sonoma, and the Sonoma County Library has resulted in the successful relocation of 26 truckloads of historical records. And whereas Farm Bureau Executive Director Tawny Tisconi reached out to the library to offer storage space and has been patient, supportive, and solution-oriented during this process. And whereas the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to support funding that would pay for a 2-year lease for the Farm Bureau space, and Supervisors Susan Gorin and Chris Corsi and their staff were proactive supporters of this project, and County General Services and real estate staff helped expedite the process. And whereas the advocates for the Sonoma County Archives and the Sonoma County Historical Records Commission were outspoken and persistent voices that helped propel this process. Therefore, be it resolved that the Sonoma County Library Commission recognizes the efforts of the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, the County of Sonoma, the advocates for the Sonoma County Archives, the Sonoma County Historical Records Commission, and the staff of the Sonoma County Library in the successful relocation of the records and historical materials, and appreciating the continued work all stakeholders are contributing to a memorandum of understanding that will help steward these materials for years to come, signed by Chair Deborah Doyle and Library Director Ann Hammond on August 2nd, 2021. Hear, hear.
Yes, congratulations for everybody.
Now remind me, Jen, do we need a second and a complete vote on this? We do, don't we?
Yes, we do. And Commissioner Schneider and Commissioner Cahill have their hands raised.
Commissioner Schneider, you first, and then Commissioner Cahill.
So I presented the motion, so I can't really second it, can I? No.
No, but you can move. You can move.
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry. I move that we accept this resolution in honor of all the great work done on behalf of the archives.
Wonderful. And Commissioner Cahill.
Yes, two things. First, there's a typo in the resolution. As I mentioned to Jen a couple of days ago, it should be dated today, September 13th, and she has posted a corrected copy in the appropriate space. Also, I want to make a special thank you to Commissioner Karen Schneider, who's been our liaison on this to the Historical Records Commission. This is not an easy issue. It was highly emotional, even fraught at some points, and it took Karen's cool head to manage to get this through. So I want to make a special thank you to her.
And the staff. And can I ask you for a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. Any comments from the commission before we take the vote? I'm seeing no hand.
I would just, Deborah, this is Andy.
Sure.
I would just like to add my thanks to Dave's, to Karen for leading the commission's efforts, and thank all the parties involved for making this happen. It's really great that we have been able to achieve this prior to the deadline and prior to any additional natural calamities. So I, for one, am very grateful to all parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I go along with that. I think it was a great job that it all got completed in a timely manner before there was another fire in that area. So thank you all.
Right. And it's a wonderful first step in making sure we know what to do with the historic records and the other records as well. All right, then I'm going to take a roll call.
Chair Doyle, Commissioner Schneider, and Commissioner Parker have their hands raised.
Commissioner Parker.
I just wanted to add my congratulations to Commissioner Schneider and the very creative thinking that was brought to bear to have this resolution, this conclusion to this process come about really
listening to the commission meeting
rather swiftly. And I appreciate all the work that went into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider, did you have something else to say?
I just want to say that there were a number of commissioners and the director and staff who pushed very hard on this issue for the last 3 years. So Chair Doyle in particular has been a force, but also the past chairs and Ann Hammond. Really, it takes a village.
It does. And frankly, the commission before us was very concerned about this, and the staff before Director Hammond was very concerned. It's just that we have only now caught the attention of some of the other groups involved as the fire seasons became so dangerous. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulford. This is waiting. Commissioner Parker,
Yes.
and Commissioner Schneider.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. We are going to send copies of this resolution to all of the groups that are receiving it. We're delighted to really do this, and so with that, and we may show up at meetings with it in hand, in fact, to make sure that people have seen it. Thanks very much, everybody. Is there any public comment on that?
Chair Doyle, Tawny Tosconi from the Farm Bureau is with us.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I didn't get to raise the hand very quickly there, but I just want to say thank you so much for working with us on this. We're very proud to have the archives with us. I feel like personally, my life has come full circle, because at one point I was the director of general services, and the archives was kind of under my world at that time. I spent a lot of time talking to Catherine about the need to find a better place for it. And that wasn't even around wildfires. It was just a place that was maybe a little bit closer to center of town. So we're very proud to have it with us. It's important to us, of course, in agriculture, because so much of the history of our county is based on agriculture. We actually have our own little archives at Farm Bureau too. So, hopefully someday we can kind of share information. And if anybody wants to come and visit your archives and visit our archives at the same time, we would gladly do that. But I just want to do a big shout out to all of the staff at the commission, because, as a person who worked through county government for a very long time, I am totally amazed. I know at times we all felt this went very slowly, but I cannot tell you that I'm sure there's not been any history in the county where a contract and a rental agreement has flown through so quickly. So, and a lot has to do very much with your staff. Ray and I work very close together. And so thank you all. And we look forward, hopefully, I don't know if eventually you'll have some sort of a little get together around the archives once they're in their permanent location. Right now they're in storage kind of at the Farm Bureau, but we would love to definitely be part of that. So thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other public comments?
Stephen Lovejoy has his hand raised.
Mr. Lovejoy.
Hi, can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Welcome up.
I can't see myself. I am the chair of the Historical Records Commission, as some of you probably don't know that, but I wanted to thank the Library Commission and the library for this resolution, thanking us for our help. And I look forward to working closely with the library and the county, finding a long-term solution for the Sonoma County Historical Records. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anybody else?
Catherine Reinhardt.
Ms. Reinhardt?
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. Good evening. I do have a few words prepared. I'm Catherine Reinhardt. I'm the co-chair of the Advocates for the Sonoma County Archives, a volunteer committee made up of members of the Sonoma County Heritage Network who possess backgrounds in archival management, emergency preparedness, historical research, education, and photography. On behalf of the Advocates for the Sonoma County Archives and our supporters, thank you for your efforts to move the priceless Sonoma County Archives collection from a less than adequate warehouse to a temporary space that offers far better environmental conditions and security than what has been provided at Los Gilicos for the past 26 years. The advocates for the Sonoma County Archives appreciates being recognized for its part in bringing attention to the uniqueness of the collection and its importance to journalists, land use planners and attorneys, surveyors, educators, historians, county staff, committee and commission members, genealogists, students of all ages, and countless others, and for the need to move the collection out of harm's way. We look forward to working alongside the library and the County of Sonoma to develop a long-term plan that addresses improved access, management, and housing of the collection. As you may be aware, October is American Archives Month. This year's theme is the power of collaboration. This provides the perfect opportunity for all parties mentioned here tonight and others to come together, to collaborate on a celebration of this recent move, and to also kick off a campaign that gets the Sonoma County Archives collection where it needs to be, where it's more accessible to the public, in a permanent facility with dedicated staff that can continue the great work that has been completed to date by head library cataloger Jeffrey Skinner and his team, as well as special collections librarians and archivists, Joanna Kolosov and Zaida Delgado, and volunteers representing the Sonoma County Genealogical Society and other organizations. So give us a call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other public comments? Okay, thanks very much. Our next item is a branch presentation, the Greenville Regional Library, Forestville, and Occidental Community Libraries. I know they had it teed up just a little bit ago, so.
Hello, my name is Nancy Sampson, and I will be presenting I'll be presenting you with the history and overview of the Granville Regional Library, Forestville, and Occidental. So, share my screen with you. And here we go. Okay, as you see, let me go back. The Granville Regional Library and the Forestville and Occidental Community Libraries are what we're discussing today. And my name is Nancy Sampson, as I said. And Sam Mulford serves as the Library Commissioner for the County of Sonoma. And the reason the County of Sonoma is the owner of this building. Granville, let me go to the next screen. Granville Library was built in 1980, and Occidental has been in Occidental since 1955, and it moved to the current location that it is in 73 Main Street in Occidental in 1972. So it's been there a long time. And then with Forestville, the Forestville Library has been in Forestville, of course, prior to the JPA, and it was housed in a small storefront, and then it was moved to a church right on the corner of Covey and 116. And when the El Molino High School added a building onto their campus, the library petitioned and were able to lease a space inside the new building, and that's been there since 2000. So, and I just wanted to point out that if you look at the square footage of Occidental and Forestville, each of those could fit in the forum room. So it kind of tells you the small size of them, but as my staff say, we're small but mighty. So that's what I'd like to say about that. And here we have demographics of the area. There's over 14,000 people living in our service area. And I wanted to show you how large the service area is. These three libraries serve the largest geographical service area of all the Sonoma County libraries. And I wanted to point out these little dots here. The Forestville is in yellow, Occidental is in purple, and Granville is in gray. And the pink that's all over the place is Sebastopol. So, and so if you notice, there are patrons from up near Sea Ranch and others. I think that's like the geysers over here. So there's patrons from all over the West County, and it is a large and sprawling service area. The other thing I wanted to point out is, if anybody's familiar with Cazadero, if you see the line going straight up from Cazadero, from 116 to straight, almost vertical, that is all the patrons who live in Cazadero. And Cazadero is to drive to downtown Cazadero takes about 30 minutes from the Granville Library because the winding roads and it's very windy. And the reason I bring that up is because a lot of people who live in Cazadero make a day of coming to Granville. They come, they do their grocery shopping, they get the gas, and they come to the library. And we have so many patrons from Cazadero. It's nice to have them come so far just to be able to use the services that we provide. I also noted that there's a sizable, not huge, but sizable Latino community in Granville and Forestville and Occidental. And that's from the 2019 community census information. So it's not from the 2020, so it may have changed significantly. As you see, there's 7,756 active cardholders of all three of the branches. And we currently do not have student one cards yet, but the West County School District has 6 K through 8th grade schools. So we have plenty of opportunity to get the cards in the hands of those kids. So I'd like to introduce my staff. And as you notice, I wanted to point out that there's 3 senior library associates, Nancy Fulmer, Bonnie, and Linda Soliver. Senior library associate is the highest paraprofessional position before becoming a librarian. So they have added duties and and responsibilities to run the Forestville and Occidental Library. Just wanted to, and they do a very good job, and they are loved in their community. Whenever anybody substitutes for them, they ask where's Bonnie? Where's Nancy? Where's Linda? So they're very much loved by the community. So also, we have Kathleen Holcomb. She's a library specialist. And just today, we have a new library specialist that started. Her name is Rose Sylvie. She is actually starting library school. So there'll be an opportunity for my librarian staff to mentor her through, and they're really excited about it because we're making a new librarian. Well, not us, but we're going to help. So, sorry. Now I would like to mention the River Friends of the Library. And without the support of the Friends, a lot of the programs that we've had over the years before the pandemic, we wouldn't have been able to have, because they give us so much and they support us in every way they can. And they're just an amazing group of people. And the one thing I do want to mention is they are accepting donations. I think we're one of the only branches accepting donations at this time. And they're having monthly Sunday outdoor book sales. They're on hiatus right now for the August, September, but they will be resuming them later in the year. I wanted to point out that if you see the green book truck over in that corner there, that is full of Friends of the Library books. So the Friends of the Library have actually put the trucks in all over the West County, going from Jenner, at the Jenner Welcome Center, they have a truck at in Bodega Bay, Duncan's Mills, Brayton, in Cazadero, and of course we have one here, and there's one at Occidental there, and then in Forestville. They make about $50 a week off of those, so it's just a little extra, and it gives the opportunity for the patrons to buy the books, and they really love it. The patrons love it. So currently the Granville Library Advisory Board is on hiatus. It has 4 members, but on hiatus due to the pandemic. So now I wanted to discuss the circulation statistics. And if you look at the collections and the events, those kind of speak for themselves with the amount of books we have. But what I wanted you to notice that the change in each of the circulation for Forestville, Occidental, Granville over here, if you note, there's less of a drop in circulation during the time we were closed for the pandemic. And I think that's because they're used to picking up books and getting holds and reserves, picking up books, and then taking off. So the transition to curbside service wasn't really as it didn't really affect the patrons as much at the rural branches. So, and I also, very important statistic I would like to point out too is the Wi-Fi usage. If you look to the amount that Granville in the fiscal year 2020 and 2020 through 2021, the Granville Library had 17,571 people using our Wi-Fi, and half of that time half of that year the library was closed to the public. So it's just an amazing amount of people that they sit in the parking lot or along the road and use our Wi-Fi. And I think that shows that we are giving a vital service out here in Granville. It just surprised me how much that actually was. So, and they need us. They really need us. Now I'd like to discuss some bright spots. If you haven't had a chance to come to the Granville Library, we have a patio, and the Friends of the Library have kept the beautiful flowers here that you see. And also just going to Forestville and Occidental, the beauty all around is just, I encourage everyone to go to the Occidental branch on a Saturday morning and just see, it's just beautiful. It's with the sun coming out of the fog, it's just gorgeous. And we're very blessed to be living and working and serving the people in such a beautiful area. The other bright spot I would like to discuss is the library's civic involvement. We are one of the official ballot box drop boxes in the county, and it has been very busy this past week with people coming in wanting to drop off their ballots to us, but we say, no, you have to put it in the box. And also tomorrow we are a polling place for the precinct of Granville, and the Granville Library has been a precinct for many, many years, and long before I became manager. And I just think it's amazing that we are able to give such variety of service. And again, like I mentioned with the Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi in the building that people are using, there was 17,571. The other huge service we are providing in this area is access to computers and Wi-Fi and Sonoma-Fi hotspots. It's just, we've become a lifeline because of this, because the cell coverage and the cable and broadband providers are not very reliable out here. And if you go any direction from Granville and into the woods, your cell service just drops. So having the Sonoma-Fi has been a godsend for many of our patrons. The other thing I'd like to discuss is the opportunities that we have. If you'll notice up in the corner, this was a picture of the 2017 flood, and the January 2017 flood. This area is right across the street from the Granville Library. And there's about 20 feet of water in this area. And had it rained maybe one more day, the water would have come up over onto Armstrong Woods Road. So I'm pointing that out. And then these chickens actually, and the rooster, it just showed up that same day, and they were just sunning or drying themselves off, and the rooster was watching them the whole time, back and forth. And the reason I discuss that is because Granville has been through floods and fires, as you know, and the library has been able to be a meeting place, a community hub, and an information gathering place and for people to actually come together and discuss and just be with each other and support each other. And that's what I really would like to see in the future, us partnering with more agencies to be able to provide community care when it's most needed. Because I've seen it's the amazing work that the firefighters and everybody does. And we can be part of that. We can be a place to be, a place to stay, a place to be safe. So that's the one opportunity. And the other opportunity, I think everyone's aware of the Granville Refresh, which is coming right along. And that'll be coming soon. But also, I'm not sure if everyone knows about the Annalee High School and El Molino have combined together. And now all the students are at Annalee High School in Sebastopol. So there may be, this change may give us an opportunity to expand at the Forestville, expand the Forestville Library in maybe a different area of the campus. So there's hope out there for a bigger, maybe, library in Forestville. And the other thing, the other opportunity that the librarians are just chomping at the bit is to have in-person programs. They're so excited to be able to have patrons come into the library or to be outside in our patio or wherever, but they're very excited about the in-person programming that's coming up, or will be coming soon. And then I wanted to show you my favorite picture that I pretty much ever. And this is a little boy, his name is Jake, and it was a Saturday morning. And as his father says, my son just loves coming to the library to read books on Saturday morning, grabs a lot of books, kicks off his shoes and settles in. So if you notice, he put his foot up on his knee and he's just chilling. So that speaks to me about how comfortable the patrons feel here and how we want to continue to make them feel welcome every time anybody comes in, from the littlest to the biggest. And that is about it. And this is one of my favorite pictures. I stopped on the road. If anybody's familiar with Carbell, you know that this is right across the street from Carbell, but this picture doesn't do it justice of how beautiful that was that day. So I just wanted to add one of my favorite pictures. And I was wondering if anybody has any questions. And
Any questions, commissioners?
Just that I think it was a good report, and I've had the chance to use all of the libraries up in that area, and I agree they're all very comfortable and a nice place for people to go to. So, and thanks a lot for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Deborah, this is Andy.
Andy.
I also, Nancy, wanted to thank you for the presentation, and I appreciated the call out on the Wi-Fi usage. If I'm doing the math correctly, that means that every day of the year, 365 days of the year, we've got an average of 50 people using the Wi-Fi in Granville. That's amazing to me, and appreciate you noting that to us. So thanks.
You're welcome. Because it's very cost prohibitive for people to get Comcast out here. They charge them an exorbitant amount to have wired lines in. So yes.
Thanks very much. You know, your area is so beautiful, and it's wonderful the work that you do to make sure that people are as connected as they can be. I could only hope that some of the federal dollars and some of the state dollars, we can leverage some of those to really be a terrific example for what broadband could look like in a, you know, sometimes an underserved, sometimes a not served area. So so we'll see. But thank you very much. And those libraries are very special in the system.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks very much for taking the time to come and present to us. All right, we're going to move into the library reports. Director Hammond, is there anything you'd like to pull out in terms of your reports? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to ask does anybody want to make a public comment on the branch presentation? My apologies. Do you have any public hands up? Hearing nothing. Okay, we'll move. Sorry, Director Hammond. We'll move into the director.
Okay, well, as you know, this has been a very eventful few weeks for the library. We have set the bar high, and by bar, I mean B for Bibliobus and A for Archives and R for Roseland. So the archives we've heard about already this evening, and we're really happy that those materials have been moved safely out of Los Guilacos, and will be proceeding with the arrangements to get them into their space at the Farm Bureau site while working with the county on a long-term solution. The Bibliobus we talked about a couple of weeks ago when we first received it. It is now at the county, being added to the fleet maintenance program there. But pretty soon we'll have it back, and it will start to make its rounds to each of the libraries so that everybody has a chance to see it before it goes on the road on its own. And in terms of Roseland, as most of you know, we opened our new temporary Roseland Library today. It is absolutely beautiful. It was a lovely event. And here's a few pictures from the event. Looking counterclockwise from the upper left, that is County Supervisor Linda Hopkins, Board of Supervisors Chair Linda Hopkins. She took a selfie with Otto the Otter, our library mascot. Just below that is Assembly Member Mark Levine, who presented us with a giant check for $1 million of state funding to support a permanent solution for Roseland. And we're very grateful to Mr. Levine and to the state for that. Excuse me, moving around to the right, there is Santa Rosa Mayor, who is doing an impromptu story time with a group of families there. And Chris Rogers did a fabulous job reading to the little ones. You'd think he was trained as a librarian. And then up at the top, that's our ribbon cutting. We had the giant scissors for the occasion. And it was so much fun to cut that ribbon and then watch people start filing into the library that they've waited so long for. So excuse me, the dust around here is getting to me. That is it. And you can read all about the other things that we've been doing in my director's report. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to address them.
Any questions for Director Hammond? I see a hand, but I'm not sure whose it is. Jen, do you see a hand?
I do not see a hand.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Director Hammond. It really was a wonderful event today. And great news in the library news section also. Thank you, Mr. Holly. All right, then, any public comment on the director's reports? I don't hear any news that hands are being raised. Okay, then we will move into the budget and finance reports. The financial reports for July. Any comments on that? And did you want to lead off, or?
Andy, are you with us this evening? Would you like to start with the monthly finance reports?
I know he was here earlier.
I saw his name.
I'm here.
Okay, there you are.
I apologize. It took me a while to figure out how to unmute. After all this time, you think I'd have that down by now. Okay, the report that we see in front of us for July, not a lot going on as is typical in July. We have so much activity that happens in June of every year that it is normal to see a slowdown in July. Some things that I would like to point out for sales tax, even though we're showing zero amount as far as revenue that was recognized, the bottom of this page shows that we received 1.5 million in sales tax receipts. And those receipts are related to the month of May. Although it's not on here, I can also tell you that during the month of August, we did receive an additional, bear with me here one moment, please. In August, we received $1.2 million in sales tax revenue. So we're still chugging along a really good trend for sales tax revenue on a monthly basis. The only other things that I can really point out on this report or on this page, salaries and benefits we're keeping up with processing two pay periods per month is what we expect. And so we are up to date on that. And then capital expenses, everything that's capital related for the most part has been related to Roseland. There are some other expenses related to furnishings. The Windsor bathroom remodel had some expenses in July. Other than that, it's mostly a focus on Roseland.
Okay.
Are there any questions for me?
You took the words out of my mouth. Are there any questions for Randy? Any comments? Any questions? No comment, no questions, no comments? Okay. Then those were the library reports. Do we have any public comments on the library reports altogether? Okay, I don't think I see a hand. Then we'll move into the commission and liaison reports. Does anybody have anything to add to their commission report? Don't see any hands. Okay, committee liaison reports. Commissioner Elkin, do you wish to add anything to your finance committee report?
You know, I'm going to uncharacteristically not add anything, thanks to the very detailed and accurate notes that Jen was able to capture from the meeting. So thank you, Jen, and nothing to add.
Thank you. I have nothing to add to the Measure Y Oversight Liaison report. Commissioner Schneider, anything to add to the Historic Records Liaison report?
Nope, I think it's just as it is.
Fabulous. All right. Any public comments on that? Okay, moving right along, we'll go into Library Advisory Board appointments. We have a Library Advisory Board reappointment for Santa Rosa. And let's see. Commissioner Schneider, since you submitted it, would you like to move?
Yes. I move to reappoint Sarah Lagos to, oh, I'm sorry, I lost my page. Sorry.
66.
Sarah Lagos to the Santa Rosa Library Advisory Board for a term ending June 30th, 2025.
Wonderful. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any questions? All
I
right.
would
then I'll-
certainly, may I speak to? her
Please,
reappointment?
please.
I just
Please,
want to take an opportunity to say, as I said in the report, that really extend our heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to Sarah for her stewardship of the lab since early 2017. And we really appreciate it.
That's great. All right, then I will take a vote. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser,
Yes.
Commissioner Mulford. Do we see a wave? Commissioner Parker,
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider,
Yes.
and I will make it unanimous of those of us who are here. And then our next, we are grateful to have her. Let's see, then our next one is, sorry, now I've lost my page here, is the Library Advisory Board reappointment for Cloverdale. And I believe Jen and Commissioner Foxen and I would like to move that the Sonoma County Library Commission reappoint
Annie Mahan.
thank you. I just can't find my page there. Thank you, Tom and our Commissioner Hauser. And before we do that, we have a short bio for her because Commissioner Foxen was going to present it. So would you like to read that, Jen?
Certainly. Commissioner Foxen submitted this bio on Anne Mahon. Anne is recommended for reappointment to the Cloverdale Lab. Born and raised in San Francisco, Anne attended San Francisco State University, majoring in English. She did not want to teach and ended up working at a corporate library. Anne liked the job, but not necessarily the corporate culture. Being the book person she is and liking the job, she ended up in a public library, South San Francisco Public Library, eventually becoming manager of children's services. Upon retiring, Anne and her husband moved to Sonoma County, Cloverdale, where she is still close to her children and their families. Before finalizing this decision, she visited the Cloverdale Library to get a feel for the community and was positively impressed. Needless to say, Anne did not leave the library. For the last 9 years, Anne has been an active member of the Cloverdale Library community, joining the Friends of the Cloverdale Library, and then becoming a committed member of the Cloverdale Library Advisory Board 6 years ago. Thank you, Anne, and welcome to another term as a member of the Cloverdale Library Advisory Board.
Thanks very much. So I will move if someone will second.
I'll second. Hauser.
Thanks, Commissioner Hauser. Commissioner Cahill,
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin,
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge, Commissioner Heavenridge?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hauser, I've got a yes for you. Commissioner Mulford. I heard something. Commissioner Parker
Yes.
and Commissioner Schneider.
Yes.
And we are unanimous. Thank you very much. We're very lucky to have them. All right. Our consent calendar only has one thing on it. Consent calendar matters include routine financial administrative actions that may be approved by a consensus. Any commission member or member of the public may request that an item be removed from the calendar and have it placed with the action items. Commission will approve the minutes of the prior meetings in summary format. And so our minutes of the August 2nd meeting are the only thing on our consent calendar. Does anybody object to that?
I move that we approve the consent calendar, which consists entirely of the minutes for June of the commission.
I'll second.
Wonderful. All right. Commissioner Cahill?
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Engbarth?
I'll have to abstain since I wasn't on the board then.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I need to go back. Tom, these are not the minutes for June. These are the minutes of the August 2nd meeting.
Excuse me, August.
Sorry. We'll amend
Looking
that.
at the wrong piece of paper. I'm sorry.
I'm going to start over again then. Commissioner
Yeah.
Cahill?
Yes.
Commissioner Elkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Barth?
Abstain.
Yes, abstain. Commissioner Heavenridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Hauser?
Yes.
Commissioner Mulford? There we go. Commissioner Parker?
Yes.
And Commissioner Schneider?
Yes.
And I'll say yes also. Okay, thanks very much. Moving on to item 10. We have some action items for motion. We are looking at the audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
And we have our auditors from Pacindy and Brinker with us tonight to walk us through the audit and answer any questions that you may have. Kellen, are you here? Would you like to take over from here?
I'm here, and thank you. I actually have a brief presentation. If I could share my screen. There we go. Great, thank you. Can everybody see, or I'm sharing the blank screen?
No, you had something.
Oh, there we go. Let's see.
You did.
Does that look like the presentation?
Yes, that's it.
Indeed. Yes.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, still after all these months, still trying to figure out Zoom all the time. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm presenting on the June 30, 2019 financial statements. And as Anne introduced, I'm Kellen Gilbert. I was the audit senior manager on the engagement. And I was assisted by Brett Bradford, the lead partner on the engagement. Jenna Blanchard and Alejandra Schaefer were my audit team. And I always like to lead with this slide just to give a little bit more background into the respective roles and responsibilities as they relate to the financial data and the financial statements specifically. So management is responsible for not only the preparation of the financial statements, but also all the financial data within the financial statements. Our responsibility as the auditor is to audit the information within the financial statements and opine on whether or not the financial statements are free of material misstatement. But it is really key just to keep in mind that the management is responsible for the information, for any of the decision making that affects the financial data within the financial statements. So as part of our audit of the financial statements, we consider both inherent risk, which is the underlying difficulty associated with the financial data. So how complex are the underlying accounting transactions, as well as the control risk, which is really what are the internal controls in place within the library, making sure that the financial statements are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. After we've considered both types of risk, we then perform a related series of tests of year-end balances, analytical procedures, and other auditing functions, evaluating the adequacy of disclosures of the financial statements to obtain that reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material misstatement.
So back to our risk assessment process, what do we look at when we're trying to determine how risky something is? So as I said, we look at internal factors such as the accounting staff and any turnover within the accounting staff, which certainly had an effect on the 19 audit. And then we look at the susceptibility of the account balance to be misstated due to error or complexity or volume of the underlying transactions. And then we look at external factors. So the most obvious one is the microeconomics is the sales tax revenue. I have a slide later on, but as you guys, I'm sure, are aware of the effects that has had on sales tax collections in 2020 and 2021. So those are all things that we consider when we're looking at the financial data and how those things can affect the financial statements. And this is just a very generalized overview of kind of where our time goes as it relates to the financial statements, cash and investments, revenue recognition, financial statements, accounts payable, Measure Y compliance, and the pension and OPEB. And I go into a little bit more detail about some of the standard procedures that we perform for each of these sections, but I think this is just really helpful to let the commission know kind of what are the sections, the bigger sections, and where we spend the most of the time on the audit. I always like to point out before anybody on the Zoom can point out to me that this does not equal 100%. People love to point out that the auditors can't do math, but we intentionally don't add up to 100% there because there are numerous other areas that are a few percentages here or there that total the 100%. So the 2019 highlights is for the library, the total assets and deferred outflows exceeded total liabilities and deferred inflows by approximately 10 million at the end of 2019. The library's overall net position increased by approximately 8 million for the second year in a row. And specifically the Measure Y funds total assets increased by approximately 3.8 million as the Measure Y sales tax revenue, that's a tongue twister, increased by approximately 950,000 over the 2018 numbers as sales tax collections were healthy throughout 2019. So I just throw that in there, just I don't want to go through the entire management discussion analysis, but just a brief overview of kind of how healthy the organization is. So here, as I mentioned earlier, some key audit procedures. We confirm cash balances and property tax revenues. And then in parentheses are the related assertions that we are testing, so existence and occurrence. We recompute and reconcile the Measure Y sales tax revenues and receivables, again, testing the existence and the valuations for the financial statements. We perform something that's called disbursements testing to test the completeness and cutoff of accounts payable, vouchers payable, and accrued expenses. We perform a reconciliation of the capital asset roll forward and verify capital asset additions to make sure that they exist and are accounted for correctly. We review and evaluate management's calculations and disclosures for the pension and OPEB balances. We're looking at the underlying reports that management uses to create those accounting adjustments and the financial statement disclosures. We're really looking at the valuation and the presentation disclosure for those balances. And then lastly, one of the big pieces of the audit is the Measure Y compliance. So for Measure Y compliance, I think this is just a helpful slide just to give a better idea of what we're looking for. So we compare the Measure Y expenditures against the official Measure Y ballot and the Sonoma County Maintenance Restoration Enhancement Act as approved by the commission. We don't actually evaluate the effectiveness or the accomplishment of the library's programs funded by Measure Y. That's more a determination for you, the commission, and management. So what we're really looking for is making sure that the underlying documentation, what that cash was spent on, that there's appropriate documentation, that there's appropriate controls, and that it was spent in accordance with the measure. And again, not really looking at evaluating whether or not it should be spent from one program versus another. that's not what we're evaluating. So I kind of buried the lead, but we ultimately issued an unqualified opinion, which says that the financial statements were fairly stated in accordance with US GAAP in all material respects. So that's a good thing. During the audit, we did not encounter any fraud, illegal acts, or significant and unusual transactions. And those would be transactions where there may not be clear guidance on how to account for a certain transaction. Those are items that we always want to call out to the board or commission. And again, we did not encounter any of those during the 2019 audit. And so then these are just some required communications that we are required as a profession to communicate to those who have the ultimate responsibility over the library. So that would be the commission. And so during the audit, we discussed with management concerns over the adequacy of audit documentation, specifically related to the tracking and preparation of the audit support related to fixed assets or capital assets. And ultimately, these concerns were alleviated by the accounting services provided by the County of Sonoma and the ACTTC office. We did not identify any material weaknesses in the internal controls. There were no alternate treatments for accounting principles, and we did not identify any other matters that we would be required under professional standards to communicate to the commission. There were no disagreements with management, and additionally, we'll be sending a letter just to finalize these the same communications that I just went through, just in a formal letter to the commission. And now I would be happy to answer any specific questions that you have related to the financial statements.
Okay, do we have any questions? And everyone should be aware that the Finance Committee did look at this.
Commissioner Elkind.
Yeah. Kellen, I'm Andy Elkind. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. And I'm also somebody who is not an accountant by training. So I realize that's a bad combination. And I have a bunch of questions for you. First of all, from a big picture perspective, I understand that we have an unqualified opinion and that you were finally able to get the information that you needed in relation to the capital assets. I have a number of specific questions, and unfortunately, I've got them tagged on the original document, not on the page number that appears in the meeting agenda. But I'm going to start with just some terminology. And I realize this is familiar to you and your team. It's not familiar to me. And you talk at several points about deferred outflows of revenue and deferred inflows of revenue. Now, my kind of interpretation of this is that a deferred outflow of revenue would be money that the library owes, but that we haven't yet paid. And that a deferred inflow would be money that's due to the library, but has not yet been collected. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay, you're on mute, but I can see you shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I think somebody had muted me. Yes, that understanding is correct. And that's all prescribed by I think it's GASB 68 and 75 for how those calculations are recorded related to the pension and the OPEB accounting.
Okay, so I'm on page 9 of the original document, and the heading is a statement of net position.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that on this page, you have deferred pensions considered both a deferred outflow and a deferred inflow. And that was confusing to me, and I wasn't clear on how that could be or what that term meant. This is let me see if, Jen, if I can give you, statement of net position. It's page 9 in that table of contents.
Yeah, and Andy, I could give you a better breakdown of exactly what goes into those numbers. That might be better, something for us to do outside of this meeting. But essentially, those are based off of actuarial reports that are 1 year in arrear. And so some of the things that get classified as deferred outflows and inflows related to the pension, that would be contributions made to the pension from the library, but after the actuarial reporting date, as I said, which is 1 year in arrears. And there's a few other calculations and things like that that go into those numbers. But that's all based off of your actuarial reports that are determining what the ultimate net pension liability is and what timing differences are creating those inflows and outflows. And I know that's a little bit of a convoluted answer, but it's not something that I can easily articulate here, but I would be happy to set up a private phone call with you and walk you through those calculations, looking at the actuarial reports.
I would appreciate that, because one of my questions related to something that you had reported in terms of the net pension liability as of June 30th, 2019. And when I looked at the Gaspy report, that was the net pension liability for June 30, 2018. So I feel like it's the same issue here, this 1 year delay. And I don't want to take our time in this meeting, but I'll follow up with you offline if that's okay on that.
Absolutely, I would love to.
Okay, I do have a few other questions, and I'll try not to drag the whole commission into the weeds here. This is on page 21, summary of significant accounting policies. You talk about fund balances, and there are restricted fund balances, committed fund balance, assigned fund balance, and unassigned fund balance. What's the difference between a committed fund balance and an assigned fund balance? Yeah, that's the page.
So the difference, it's a little bit of, I don't want to say it's ticky-tacky, but it has to do with really the level of formality attached by the actual commission or other formal body that's making the determinations for how to use those funds. So if the library is specifically setting aside funds that can only be used under a board decree for specific purposes, that's going to end up in your committed fund balance, whereas assigned fund balance is more on an intent basis as opposed to something passed in an official resolution where you're making that commitment to use those funds for a specific purpose. But really the answer is that it's on the level that the board is choosing to kind of reserve those funds for.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate it. So my next question, by the way, Deborah, should I pause and let other people ask questions, or should I just keep going here?
Well, I think we'll get your list finished, and then we'll circle around.
Okay, and I'm going to try to put aside those questions that Kellen and I can take up in private, but I just have a couple more here. I'm on page 29, and this has to do with the defined benefit pension plan, something that the Finance Committee and I are starting to look at in more detail. And I just wanted to confirm, maybe this is a question for you and for our HR department, that under the classic plan, employees are covered at 2% per year of service at age 55. And under the new PEPRA plan, it's 2% per year of service at age 62. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, unless as of 2019, that's my understanding. I can double check looking through the plan documents for you again offline, but that's I do believe that to be correct.
But I know there's a difference based on PEPRA, but I wanted to confirm that in either case, it was based on 2% a year. So let's circle back on that when we talk offline. And then the last questions I had, Kellen, are on pages 44 and 45, which relate to OPEB contributions and liability. And the subject line at the top of the page says last 10 fiscal years, and the asterisk said it's intended to show information for 10 years, and additional years will be displayed as this information becomes available. Does this mean that we don't have access to any historical information before 2018 or 2017?
Yeah, that's correct, because that's based off of when the related GASB, I believe it's GASB 68 and 75 ultimately went into effect. And so that's why it doesn't go back further than those years. So 2015 for GASB 68 on the pensions, and just 2017 on the OPEB for GASB 75. So that's when if you, I don't want to say if you might remember, if you look back into the previous financial statements, you'll see that when these GASBs went into effect, there was an opening balance adjustment to implement those GASBs. And then the reporting requirements are from, again, this is all in accordance with the standard. From that point forward, you're required to show up to 10 years worth of information, but that information is not, we add to it every year, but we don't go back in arrears because we don't have that information, and you as the library and all other governments were not required to present that information in that way prior to those GASBs going into effect.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to take the rest of the specific questions about this audit offline. I do have a question about the upcoming audits, but I'll hold off on that, Deborah, for a moment in case any of the other commissioners have questions for Kellen about this audit. Okay.
Great. And let me ask you, do any of these questions that you need answered, are they going to have an impact on whether you want to accept the audit report?
No, this is, and I should have clarified this. Kellen, my purpose in drilling down here is not to grill you. It's to educate myself and the finance committee so that we can make more intelligent decisions regarding the financial direction of the library.
I appreciate you keeping me on my toes, and we actually love it when we get this type of engagement, because there's, we're not infallible, and we want to make sure that everybody at appropriate levels are looking at this. And so I appreciate the feedback and the opportunity to answer questions. I'm sorry, just to interrupt real quick. If you go to page 30, it may not be in the level of detail that Andy was hoping for, but there is a breakdown of what makes up the deferred inflows and outflows for those the pension in that first table there. So there's change in assumptions related to the actuarial reports and those contributions made subsequent to the measurement date, which is the largest amount of those outflows, which is what I previously had stated. But that's a general idea of what goes into those inflows and outflows.
Right, and I had made some notes around that, and I think it gets into that issue of timing and delay, and that's something I'd like to just cover with you offline in a little bit more detail.
Sure, yeah, the measurement date and the valuation date are both,
yes.
It's a very unusual timing difference, yep.
Right. Thank you very much. And timing is everything. We haven't looked at the audit in the finance committee, and so that's I think unusual for unusual for the commission. So you're getting more, whoa, that was a light show.
Sorry.
You're going to get a few more questions than you might ordinarily. Anybody else have questions? And thank you for that response. That was really terrific. We appreciate your willingness to step it up.
It really is a pleasure. I appreciate it.
This is Commissioner Hauser, and
Commissioner Hauser, go for it.
I do want to make a comment. The Measure Y committee did review the audit, and they have looked at it and did not have serious questions about it. Let's say that.
That's correct. Anyone else have any comments, any questions? I'm seeing no electronic hands. You can't see any physical hands. All right, I think that's
Deborah,
it.
if there are no further questions, I did want to follow up with Kellen. I realize, that in this case, and having talked with you and Brad quite a while back when you were first facing the lack of information related to our fixed assets, that a large part of the reason we're getting this so late is because of our own inability to furnish the necessary information. That said, we are really eager to get the audit for 2019 to 2020 and for 2020 to 2021 completed as quickly as possible. What's a reasonable expectation in terms of when we might be able to see those?
That's a great question. So we have made arrangements with Ann and Randy and his team at the county to do a consolidated report to show both years in one audit. So it's going to be 2 audits within one report. And we're anticipating starting that audit in October with the hope and assumption and estimate that we will be able to provide a draft along the lines of the timeline that we have always kind of operated under for the last few years prior to 2019, which was to have a draft by the end of November, to have a near finalized draft for this commission for the December meeting so that you could review and approve it, and then to go final shortly after that. So hopefully before the end of the fiscal year. So that's kind of the timeline that I'm preparing for and operating under.
Well, I just want to say that would be great. And my only request would be if as you mentioned, since Randy and his team have come on board, I feel like the ability of our staff to provide you with information in a timely manner has greatly increased. I would only ask that if at any point you encounter any delays, that you please escalate those as quickly as possible so that Ann and the staff can turn that around, because we are very eager to see these upcoming audits.
Certainly. I will absolutely email Ann. And is there anybody else from this commission or the finance committee that you'd like me to include, perhaps yourself, on those communications should we experience any slowdowns?
Please include Andy and myself.
I will do that. And if you can send me their contact information. But I feel confident working with Randy and his esteemed group that we should be able to get this back onto a normal timeline, because that's in everybody's best interest. So that is
Absolutely.
my goal.
That would be great, Kellen. Thank you so much. And thanks to your team also. One request, the PowerPoint presentation, could you send that to Ann? If you want a PDF at first, you can, but I'd like to be able to take another look at that with the Finance Committee.
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure. I'm having a little technical difficulties tonight, but I should be able to get that to her tomorrow.
Not a problem. No worries. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. All right, last call for comments, questions from the commission. I'm not seeing anything. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to your work in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Andy. Please reach out to me, or I'll reach out to you through Ann to set up a time to answer more of your questions.
That's great. Thanks. We'll do.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
All right. Our next agenda item is the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination and testing policy. It is an action. Oh, yes, Mr. Hauser?
That was under action items by motions.
Oh.
Should we have a motion?
I think we probably should. Thank you so much. As long as you're talking, would you like to move?
I will so move approval of the audit.
Thank you, Commissioner Hauser. Would someone like to second?
Second.
All right. Then I will go through the rest of it. Commissioner Elkin.
I'll vote yes. I think you skipped Commissioner Cahill.
Well, he was the second.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I'm, not always, yeah. Anyway, Commissioner Engbarth.
Yes, I'll have to abstain because I didn't get the opportunity to review all the material. Plus, I wasn't around when the stuff was put together. So
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Heaven Ridge, and I don't need to ask you for the first. Commissioner, oh yes, I'm sorry. Commissioner Heaven Ridge says yes. Commissioner Hauser is also a yes. Commissioner Mulford. Fabulous. Commissioner Parker.
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider.
Yes.
And I will make it unanimous. Thank you, Commissioner Hauser.
One abstention.
Okay, our next action item is the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination and testing policy. And how do we walk through this? Is Suzanne going to, Ms. Silva going to explain it to us, or?
We have Suzanne, we have Erica. I think, would one of you like to introduce this?
Sure. Good evening, commissioners. So, the COVID pandemic is we thought that it was going to be, dying down with vaccinations, and unfortunately that has not been the case. The Delta variant has caused for unvaccinated folks and increases in cases. And in Sonoma County, we've had new cases for unvaccinated residents, and so ultimately the county at its board meeting on August 17th, basically the Board of Supervisors approved an order that was requiring the county workers that were not fully vaccinated to become fully vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. Taking all of that into account, the library decided that it wanted to implement its own vaccination program. And we had the right to do that, but we had to bargain with the union over the impacts of implementing such a program. So we drafted a policy and then met and conferred with the union. And after a couple of meetings with the union and making some adjustments to the policy, we agreed and signed the policy. And with your approval, we will be implementing mandatory vaccinations for those who are not vaccinated. And for those who choose to not be vaccinated, they will need to submit to weekly testing. And we will, HR is in the process of rolling out how that process will be taking place. But actually implementing the procedure, actually, we have the policy developed. But the union was basically on board with this. I mean, we all realize that we want our staff to be safe, and we have a pretty good idea that we believe a majority of our staff is vaccinated, but we won't know for sure until we start doing the visual inspection of vaccination cards or QR codes. So I guess that's pretty much all I have to say, unless Erica wants to chime in. I was pleased with the swiftness and the cooperation of the union in the execution of this agreement and the meet and confers that we've had. So.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We did have a really good meeting with the union. I'm grateful for their support and their work with us on this. So we're looking at allowing employees who choose not to get vaccinated to do the weekly testing. It will be on library time, so they will do it while they're, during their normal business day. We have identified sites where they can go to get their testing done. Once we implement it, we will have a protocol for all library staff, but the protocol also includes other people, volunteers, friends of the library. And so all of these things we'll have to work out when we come up with our implementation plan.
Mm-hmm. And how is it different than the county?
It's not. It's consistent with the county. So the county's protocol is testing or vaccinations, and our protocol is the same.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions for?
Tom Hauser, how do we tell when the COVID-19 pandemic is over? Because the proposal, number one, during the COVID-19 pandemic, is that going to be an important issue? I just don't like uncertainties when we're dealing with issues with the union and so forth.
Sure. Well, one of the things that we did say in, without saying names or saying who, we did say that we would review and discuss this at our LMC meetings. And, I would say that our LMC meetings have been going a lot, better. Our relationship is improving tenfold with our with our union. I would say that our relationship is going significantly better. And I would also like to add that right after the union signed this agreement, the president put in a policy that this is going to be happening with businesses of 100 and more employers. So, this is the way that we are going as a nation for the time being. People who don't want to test weekly, because that is the alternative, and we are going to pay for the staff to get tested on company time, if once SPSL goes away. And we will try to make it convenient. The county has a map my test route. Where you can take a test on the way to or from, so we don't have to try to interrupt the work for the business operation. And if people aren't experiencing symptoms, they can still work. So we do have COVID protocols still in place for those who are. We have a COVID hotline in place. So we really, it is an uncertain thing that is occurring. And so, but we really, we're really trying to protect the safety of our workplace while trying to keep business operations in effect.
And we also made it very clear to them that if the county changes their policies, if they go to a more restrictive testing where only medical or religious exemptions would be allowed to do the weekly testing, that we would be consistent with the county. So that was something that we made clear to them, that this is our policy right now, but it's always up for revision.
I think my concern is that if we're going to change this, we have to get approval of the union the way it's written.
Well, maybe I could help add to that if you guys can hear me.
Thank you.
This is Phil Wright. So the Public Employee Relations Board has, in an earlier case with UC Berkeley, held that the question of requiring vaccines is a management right, and it's a management decision. It's not negotiable. The only thing we would have to negotiate is the impact. So I certainly, as a lawyer, understand nobody likes to have language like that language in there. But basically, we will be on a monthly basis meeting to discuss how everything is going, whether things are improving, not improving. And if the union believes that, the pandemic is under control and wants to change it, they can bring that to our attention, and we'll certainly talk about it. We wouldn't change this without getting back to the commission and having a conversation with the commission.
Great, thanks.
Yeah,
Any
I
other
have a
questions?
question. Yes.
Go for it.
Suzanne, will you be reporting to the commission on the number of employees who have been fully vaccinated?
Yes, Commissioner Elkin, once we are able to get those statistics, which we will be required to do by October 8th, we'll know. So I don't think it'll be by the October meeting because that is the 7th, isn't that right? So we won't have that information until the November meeting, but yes.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Parker has her hand.
Commissioner Parker.
Hi, is this going to be taking into account booster shot requirements as that comes along?
Could you say that again? There was some interference. Could you ask your question again? Sorry.
Right. I'm wondering about booster shots. The language talks about being fully vaccinated. Will that encompass booster shots as well?
It's funny that you mentioned that because I was talking with my staff today as we were designing how we were going to roll this out. And so right now, you know, one of the discussions that we had with the union was that only FDA approved, you know, on a go forward basis. And so right now, the only FDA approved booster is for Pfizer. So that will be on a go forward. We can only, you know, authorize the boosters for Pfizer. But as the others roll out, yeah, that would be part of the process. Correct.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I hear none. So does someone, it has been by the library and the union, does someone want to move to approve this?
I move we approve the motion to adopt the COVID-19 mandatory vaccination and testing policy.
I'll second. Heaven Ridge.
Okay. He beat you to it, Commissioner
Yeah,
Elkin.
that's
All right.
okay.
All right. Commissioner Cahill.
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Elkin, I heard a yes there.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Barth.
Yes.
Commissioner Heavenridge. You
Yes.
said Commissioner Hauser.
Yes.
Commissioner Mulford. Great. Commissioner Parker.
Yes.
And Commissioner Schneider.
Yes.
And I'll make it unanimous. Wonderful. Okay. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Suzanne, and Erica for giving us the details. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
Hello? Okay.
I just said thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to move into closed session. And see you on the flip side. I see us all coming back. I'll give it a minute. Okay, I think everybody is mostly back. Pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, no action was taken in the closed session. So now we're up to item 13. Does anybody have agenda items for future commission meetings? Sing out now, but that doesn't mean we can't add things later. We are going to, we don't have it on the calendar yet, but we're certainly going to be doing some training. And I'm not sure whether that'll be in a commission meeting or whether we'll do a separate meeting. It's probably going to be a separate meeting.
Deborah, I'd like to, whether it's part of a commission meeting or part of the training, I think we have to take a closer look at our deferred liabilities, pension plan, and OPEB.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that we all understand exactly where we are and can take some appropriate action.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly, that's on the list. Anybody else? And we can certainly add things. So this is not your only opportunity to add to the October agenda. Okay, hearing none, then our next commission meeting is going to be October 4th, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank
Nice
you.
night.
Please.